Hey guys, welcome to our third episode with Fresh Clinics. We're Inside Aesthetics. We usually do podcasts on a Friday, but this is the third episode of our bonus episodes. You'll notice this is a Wednesday when it's released, and it's got a slightly different look and feel, and we're recording at Fresh Clinics headquarters. David, tell our listeners, or maybe new listeners, who we are and what we do normally.
Yeah, well, as Jake said, we're Inside Aesthetics. We're a podcast that has been publishing weekly episodes for the last 6.5 years. I think this is episode 300 and something, 310, 320. Feels like episode 1,000,000. We cover topics mainly in the non-surgical aesthetic space. We do obviously venture into topics such as business, wellness, longevity, biohacking, and all the other good stuff. So weekly episodes on Friday, as Jake said. We've got a vibrant Patreon community of well over 1,000 people globally from all different parts of the world, from new injectors to business owners to seasoned and experienced KOLs, just like yourself, Jake.
Yeah. And now in our first two episodes with Fresh, we touched on something called the State of Medical Aesthetics, which is Fresh Clinics' report on business within Australia. And then our second episode, we spoke to someone called Ryan Bourgeois, who's an injector in Texas. Now today, we've got Franziska Iseli. Have I said that correct?
Oh, perfect.
Fantastic. Now, you've got a very interesting background. So do you just want to tell our listeners and maybe viewers on YouTube and Patreon, who are you? What's your background?
Yeah, so obviously I do sometimes have to bust the myth up front of cultural background, because obviously people can detect some sort of a weird accent. So I would call myself a Swazi. I'm a Swiss Aussie. Been in Australia for 20 years, born in Switzerland. And business-wise, my background, so grew up in Switzerland. And Switzerland is quite a rules-driven, conventional society. It's changing a little, but I definitely grew up in that sort of framework of go to university, have a career. So I started my career in marketing and advertising. I studied political science to make my dad happy, and ended up moving to Australia because I got a scholarship to go to Sydney University. And I I arrived here in Australia, and I'm like, these are my people. The Even though we do have a lot of rules here, people are not so much obedient, or at least my kind of people. So I'm like, this is my kind of environment, and I always wanted to start my own business. I knew that I struggle with authority. I've always struggled with authority. I'm sure.
We've got another.
Yeah, I'm sure you, Jake.
I'm kind of rules driven, but I'm loosening up.
There we go. David and I, we struggle with authority and rules. So I knew I can't work too long under someone, and I did. I worked in advertising, and I worked in strategy when I was in an advertising agency. And I just didn't even like some of the approaches and some of the snobism. And so I decided, you know what, I can do this better, and I can do it for small business owners. So I quit my career in advertising and started a company called Basic Bananas. And it's a marketing school for business owners. So I wanted to make the knowledge that I had from advertising available to small businesses. And so that's one of my first businesses. And it's still here now after almost 16 years. And then along the way, I started a few businesses that failed and had a few successful partnerships, a few failed partnerships. And still now another one of my companies is called Ocean Lovers. And we are just actually changing that company again. At the moment, we have a product which is sustainable swimwear, very competitive market. It used to be cool when we started in 2016. And now everyone is doing it. So we're changing that again. And then I've got a few companies that I invest in, mentoring, all that sort of good stuff. So I just love entrepreneurship. I love rebels. I love rule breakers. Obviously, we're here at Fresh Clinics, and I've been working with Fresh Clinics now for a while to help their business owners, their nurses to understand how to market, how to get out there.
Yeah, I've only met you 10 minutes ago, but where does your drive come from? There's a definite kind of drive behind this, and we were talking off air about, your lack of imposter syndrome. So where does that come from?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I've been asked this a lot on podcasts, and every time I have a new answer. But I definitely dug a little bit into, do I have daddy issues maybe? Do I have mommy issues? Maybe was there a thing when I grew up where I felt like I need to achieve to be loved? Maybe, because definitely when I was a kid, the parenting was that I got money for when I had good marks. And I got no pocket money when I didn't have good marks. Clearly, that's helped me to want to be better. And I appreciate that. And also, I think the drive always came from when I was a child. I wasn't given things, I had to work for it. So I wanted to go horse riding. I never had my own horse because I couldn't afford it. But I wanted to go horse riding, so I had to make money, pocket money to go afford lessons. So I had my first job working in a winery, not drinking wine, but cleaning fountains and mowing lawns and stuff when I was 10 years old. And that, I think, gave me a taste of wanting to make money to use to have really cool experiences. And that, I think that's my other driver, is I thrive on adventures. I thrive on experiences. I don't thrive on having stuff. And so always back then, through school, university, I worked really hard, had 20 side jobs to then spend the money on adventures. I think the drive comes definitely from childhood, from my parents maybe having interesting parenting techniques that now are paying off.
And so what was your first introduction to the industry? And from someone that's come from the outside in, what was your first perception and sort of thoughts on this aesthetic space?
Such a great question. So my first introduction was through a dear friend, Andrea Culligan. And her and I have done some really awesome adventures on a motorcycle and just different things in life for 10 years or so. She is really good friends with Rob inside Fresh Clinics. And she said, hey, would you join me at Fresh Life, the conference, to do a keynote with me on courage and on change and entrepreneurship? I'm like, yeah, anything you want me to do, I'll do it. And so I didn't know much about the industry. And then I came in and I was blown away by how the nurses that came to the conference, and it was a brilliant conference, you were there, David, how every small business owner has pretty much the same problems. And the cool thing, I think what I managed to bring in is I find that creativity and ideas come from looking outside of your industry. And obviously I work with lots of industries. I have worked with lots of beauty salons along the journey, never as a single industry. But I always say to people, hey, look outside of your industry for ideas, because you can differentiate yourself by not copying what other people are doing in your industry. So that was incredible. The other thing I was blown away by is the sense of community, especially at the Fresh Life conference. It was just such an empowering community. People were really supportive of each other. And I know there's probably, sometimes it's not always the case, but I feel like Fresh has really managed to foster this environment of, hey, we support you, we support each other, we cheer each other on, we got this together. And I think that much of my success has been because of my community, the people that I've met, the people that I've partnered with, the people that I've supported that have supported me. So I think that's really cool to see here at Fresh.
You referenced that these business owners all have a common problem or a challenge. What do you think that is?
So in my space, so obviously I focus mainly on marketing with Basic Bananas. We will talk quickly. Also, you mentioned one that is not usually something I talk about is imposter syndrome. Definitely. I'll come back to that. But what I see in my space is that these business owners, these nurses don't have a plan to grow their businesses. They don't even know where to start. And everyone talks about something else. And I'm sure you've had people on the podcast. Someone talks about digital marketing. Someone talks about just do some social media stuff. Someone talks about old school marketing, which I'm a big believer in. And so they get all this stuff thrown at, oh yeah, we could do a bit of this, but they don't have a plan. And then they start something and it's like, this is all a bit too hard and it's a bit annoying and I don't have time to learn all this stuff. So I think that's one commonality, and one of the biggest struggles is not having a plan and not having a guidance when it comes to, hey, just do this, this, and this consistently. That's one. Imposter syndrome, when Fresh and you guys asked me to come on this show, the question was, hey, can you come and talk about imposter syndrome? And I said to Loz, I said, I don't think I'm the right person. So I actually denied the invitation to be on the show. I said, just because I'm really blunt, with people are really blunt, I said, I don't think I'm the right person and I'm not a bullshitter. So I don't think I can talk about it because I don't really care what other people think. That was my response to her. She responded by saying, that's why we need to have you on the show, because that's exactly the problem
Yeah.
with imposter syndrome. So that's the second challenge, I think, is a lack of confidence that you can do it. So it's a mindset shift, a lack of confidence for these beautiful humans, nurses that go, hey, I don't know if I can do this. I know how to inject. I know how to, do the treatments. I don't know if I know how to run a business. You can learn it. It comes down to curiosity.
We've spoken about this on the podcast many times. It's that it's okay to not know, but you also need to seek advice and actually action it. You can't just put your head in the sand and hope for the best. So we'll get into some of that.
Yes.
What do you think some of the common mindset blocks are with people starting new business? I mean, you've mentored thousands of businesses probably. What do people initially struggle with?
There are a few common myths that I would say that business owners have, startups have. One of them is that they think when it comes to marketing, they think that they're not ready to market because they need to wait. Maybe the website is not there yet. Maybe the shop, the studio is not, the clinic is not perfectly branded yet. And it's a little bit of a limiting belief because usually what's behind the limiting belief is a fear of failure, possibly. So that's one common myth that I like to bust. And I say, hey, I always use the analogy, when is the best time to plant a tree?
I'm assuming now.
Yeah, even better yesterday. But the
Yesterday.
second best
Yeah.
time is now.
Yeah.
When is the best time to market? And it's the best time to get out there and talk about your company. Yesterday, but yesterday's gone. So second best time, as you said, Jake, is now. That's one big one. Time is definitely a big one because, these business owners, they don't have time. They're learning how to start a business. They're probably even still learning some of the trade. They don't have time.
Yeah.
And so, again, what I usually say is just block out some time in your diary. Make it a practice to even, depending on what stage you are in your business, block out a few hours a week. Put your phone on airplane and just be proactive when it comes to marketing.
Yeah.
That's another one. There are many, but I think those are probably the two big ones.
Good advice. We've struggled with that as podcasters. We've created this thing that we don't understand, but it's kind of working. But until we sort of set some time aside to have a meeting every week or every month, you're just flying by the seat of your pants and hoping for the best. So yeah, plan it and just sit down and take a breath and be like, okay, what am I doing here? What's not working? What are the friction points? And action it. Don't hide from it.
I'd like to unpack a couple of the points that you raised. So the first one was the imposter syndrome or not feeling ready. Let's discuss the concept of like internal reprogramming, because I think like if I think back to my time in school, I was never taught to be a business owner. I was taught to follow a set of rules, and then you go to school and you go to university and you get a job, you work for someone, and then you retire. So no one's actually teaching you how to map your own journey forward, but we're taught to be employees or to work within a system, and particularly like nurses and doctors, even more so. They go from university to the public health system, they're working in teams. So I think there's probably some internal programming that needs to be done. So we'll talk about that. And then secondly, failure. I think failure is seen as a negative thing. For me, all the things in life that have made me a better person or a bit better business owner have been through mistakes and failure. You don't learn from when things go right. You learn from when the shit hits the fan, and you have to kind of reevaluate what went wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe, again, part of the reprogramming is changing your perception of the word failure and actually welcoming it and thinking about, well, what is the worst possible scenario that can happen here? What's my contingency plan for that? Can I deal with that? So would you like to unpack those a little bit?
I would love to. And I love your last point on failure. And there's a quote, and it's not mine, but it goes along the way of you either win or you learn.
Yeah.
Have you heard it?
Yep.
You either win or you learn. And I think that's what failure is about. And I actually, within my businesses, I highly recommend for my people to fail. And I even have a saying where I say, hey, if we don't fail, if we don't launch campaigns that bomb, if we don't try stuff that doesn't work out, it means that we're not trying hard enough. We have to fail. Because if we don't fail, we're not learning. We're stagnant. So I think that's an important point in regards to what you share on failure. And I agree 100%. It's all about learning. Without all my failures, I wouldn't be here. And I've had lots of failures. Now, which leads me to your first question. But how do you get up?
Mm.
How do you, because yes, many of us, some of us are lucky enough maybe to have entrepreneurial parents. Most of us are grown up in a system like you, like me. And even when I quit my advertising career, I didn't tell any of my Swiss friends or family for maybe 6 months at least, until I saw that I can be successful in my own business. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone. Maybe I told my brother, and he always thought that I'm a little crazy. So he sort of thought I'm going to just be a surf bum sitting on the beach in Australia. And now look at me, brother. We're actually really close. He's so the opposite. He's used to be a Swiss banker and all that,
Huh.
but that's a different story. He definitely followed the system.
Mm.
He's breaking out of the system now, which is really cool to see. How do we change that internal programming? Because not everyone can just move away from family, do their own thing, and not tell them like I did. We have to somehow be in these structures and change our internal programming to be able to do what we really want to do, which is start a business, for example, fail, get up, learn, keep going. And what I think works really well for me and for many people that I mentor is having your own internal mantras that you can use. Because it's all about perception. And I wrote a book on perception too. It's all about your own perception of any situation. So anything that happens to us anytime, like right now, before, at the airport, in a cab, anything that happens to us, we put a meaning on it. And we can always choose the meaning. And so it's up to us to choose meanings that are empowering. Let's say I fail at something. I can now either say, oh, I'm just not that good. No, I'm just not that good an entrepreneur. Or maybe I have a leadership situation and I'm just not very good with people. Or I can say, hey, this is really cool because I guess I am brave enough to make mistakes so I can learn. So I can choose the meaning. My personal internal mantra that has helped me through many situations is I got this. So I always use in my mind, I got this. And I use it when I'm riding a really difficult motorcycle ride somewhere through Kazakhstan, or if I'm trying to run a marathon in New York City and I'm not a runner at all. To get through these 40 something Ks, I just go, I got this. I got this. I got this. So the listener here, find what works for you. Maybe it's a similar mantra, maybe it's something else, but that's definitely how we can shape our internal landscape, is by watching what are we thinking and then just changing it.
It's something I've noticed, and I'm going to ask both of you this. You're both entrepreneurs, and we'll start with you. Nurses and medics like me, doctors, we never went through that sort of creative process at university or college. We were taught the system and we, actioned it. And we're very rule protocol driven people.
Yeah.
So I think that's why people struggle with entrepreneurship, because it's not in their nature. And you said at the start, you're a rebel. I know David's a rebel. So it's a personality thing as well as an education thing. So how can you sort of identify or steer someone who's quite protocol driven to be a little bit more free and loose and try things without sort of, like you said, defining it like failure?
It's such a great question. And I've met lots of really successful entrepreneurs. They are usually in more strict industries, like law, accounting, etc., that are incredibly successful, probably more successful than anyone, then probably in the top 5% of success that are really strict. But I guess they chose fields where they can still have these structures. I don't, and maybe David, you have a different approach to this, but I don't think you have to be super crazy or a rebel to be a successful entrepreneur. You just have a slightly more secure approach. So I would bet that both you and I, we are very risk, what's the word? Not risk averse, the other thing, risk.
Yeah.
We love risk.
Pro
We
risk.
love yeah, we're pro risk. We love
I can for
uncertainty.
sure see that in David, and I'm the opposite.
Yes.
I'm Mr. Boring, conservative. I want safety.
Yeah.
And again, nurses particular, that they work within teams in hospital sort of to secure safety. That's their role. And obviously, help with patient care, but they don't take risk.
Exactly.
It's certainly not in the mantra.
I think that's great. I just think that when you are an entrepreneur or when you start your own business, there are people like David and I that will take all the risk, will also lose everything,
Yeah.
and then will rebuild. There are people that probably do it smarter, that are super risk averse, and they just take smaller risks.
Yeah.
So when they launch a campaign, they won't just spend, all their money on one campaign. They go, I'm just going to spend $50 and then see how it goes.
See how you go.
So I actually don't think you have to be a rebel or a little bit, into uncertainty. I think that the entrepreneurs that are more rules driven, they do a really good job at the gradual success without losing all the money along the way, without, I guess, falling on their faces too many times, which we have so many bruises, David and I, but we kind of like it, right?
Yeah, what do you think? You speak to so many nurses and businesses.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll go back to like what I would call like first principles thinking about this. I think that most people in life haven't found their passion and they haven't found what it is that they truly love to do. Because I think that once you've found that, then you're willing to do whatever it takes to be successful at that and to push the boundaries and to take those risks. So I think it goes back to, are you doing what really drives you? Are you passionate? Do you love it? Do you love it enough to push, right? And then secondly, surrounding yourself, controlling your environment. So for me, I worked out early on that you become the average, and this is not my saying, this is other people saying, that you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. So if you sort of immerse yourself in an environment with people that you aspire to be like or that you want to learn from, it will inevitably rub off on you. So for me, it's getting back to your why. Is this what you really love to do? If the answer to that question is yes, then you'll find a way. And then control your external environment. Put yourself with people who you want to be like, people that are smarter than you, who are more successful than you, that have maybe walked down that path. And I think that people have become maybe shy to ask for help. They think, oh, this person wouldn't want to talk to me, or they're not going to give me the time of day. I think that's more of a reflection on them than on the person asking. But I think that if you can get those two things, control your externals and dialed in exactly what it is you're passionate about, then you'll find a way.
It's such a good point, especially the first point. The second point I don't always agree on, and I'm happy to discuss. I think it's more of a self-preservation answer, the second one. The first one, I 100% agree. I really do believe that if you can find purpose within what you do and the passion, and you know why you're doing it, to make an impact, not just for money. Any business owner I have ever met, startup that is only in it for the money, hardly ever makes it. Anyone who is in it to make an impact, the money comes in abundance if you really do it for the right reasons. Now, sometimes there are, some listeners now go like, oh my goodness, I really don't enjoy what I do right now. Do I need to give up? I think sometimes there are times in your life and in your career where you have to push through these bits where it's like, oh, this is a bit hard. I don't really enjoy it anymore. I had a phase last year where I was just a bit worn down. I got 2 young kids and a few businesses, and I lost joy. And I haven't lost joy in a long time. So I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I just give up, or do I push through and lie to myself about joy? So I wrote joy in big words on the computer, put on a note, put it on the computer. Every day I walked into the office a bit like, oh, another day. And I looked at the word joy. I'm like, okay, come on, let's just try. Just try to be joyful. And of course it didn't work straight away, but suddenly I'm like, okay, I'm feeling it. Let's do it. And it came back. So sometimes we push through. The comment about your environment, I definitely agree to most of it. I do think it's important who we surround ourselves with, and reaching out to people, as you say. Most people, if you come from a place of giving again, and you say, hey, I'd love to, support you. I've seen some stuff that you've done. Can I help you? And then, can we hang out? I think that's an amazing approach. I think where I sometimes don't agree with the quote is because people think, oh, all my friends are a bit lame. Do I have to change my friends, or all my friends are unsuccessful, or some of my friends are struggling? I have lots of my closest friends that are not entrepreneurs, and I wouldn't say that they're changing, my success or how successful I am.
I think it's kind of not black or white. I think it's shades of grey.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that you go and cull your whole group of friends because some of them, are unemployed or they don't. But I think that different people teach you different things in life. So your friends that are not business people probably teach you other things. So when I said you become the average of the people you spend your most time with, I think that's true. I think that you're an amalgamation of your experiences, on your own as a person, learning and developing,
Yeah.
and also the time you spend interacting with others. I think that we sort of are like programmed through the time that we spend on this earth in places and with people. So I'm not suggesting, go and all your friends, but I mean, for me, I know that like my journey into this career and my successes and failures and pulling myself out of bad situations, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I didn't have like friends around me, people that have maybe walked that path before, encouraged me to take risks, been inspired by things that they had done. So for me, that was a big part of my success. So I think it's just about putting yourself out there and just finding your people.
And that's also why things like this podcast, and I know you both put so much time and heart into this, and it's another, because now sometimes people go like, but where do I find my people, or how can I get mentoring? I don't have money. Things like this podcast, this is your people. You're listening to your people. Often people ask me, they say, who is your mentor? And I always say Richard Branson, for example. I mean, I have met him and he's written a foreword for my book, but he's not my direct mentor. I don't speak to him on a regular basis, but I read his books. I look what he does and he inspires me. So you can also find your people by tuning into a show like this,
Sure.
where you hang out with people that have done things that you would love to do.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
nice. Now we're going to spin this conversation more to marketing now. So your company, Basic Bananas, how do you do it? How do you cater for all different types of businesses? What services do you offer? And I guess, how do you start? Like, what's the journey for your customers?
Our whole philosophy when we started in 2019, the thing that I observed the most is I was living on the northern beaches in Sydney, and I was working for an advertising agency in the city. And on the beaches, there are lots of small businesses. A lot of them are struggling. A lot of them came to me to ask, hey, how do I do this advertising thing? They couldn't afford the agency that I was working in. And so I decided that it would be smart to give them the learnings, to teach them how to do things, to understand strategy so that they can either do it themselves or they can then hire agencies that cater for different needs, for example, SEO or social media or any other channel that they want to focus on. And it's this whole philosophy of teach someone to fish
Hmm.
rather than giving them the fish. Because if I give them the fish and then the fish stops, they don't grow anymore. So I want to teach them how to do it. So that's the whole philosophy. We have a framework which we also teach to the Fresh Clinics members called the marketing ecosystem. And it comes back to what we talked about at the beginning. It gives them a framework, a system where they can plug anything that they're working on. Any channel that they're working on, they can plug into this system. I'm happy to give you a quick snapshot because I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to having a plan is that everyone focuses on the traffic bit. All the traffic means your marketing channels. We talked about some SEO, social media, letterbox drops, partnerships, all that. But what they forget to focus on is conversion. So how can we increase conversions from this traffic? Relationships, which I think something you guys are both good at. How do we build relationships? And then number 4 is how do we reactivate? So this framework that we teach to business owners is focusing on traffic, conversions, relationships, and reactivation. And it walks you through a whole system. Usually it's here at Fresh, it's a 12-week program for them to at least have a rough first model of their own ecosystem. For a lot of our members, it's a 12-month program that we take them through.
When it comes to marketing, and this might be slightly controversial, but let's go
I
there.
like controversial.
For me, because I coach a lot of business owners in this space, whether they're here or overseas, and this concept of marketing comes up like, how do I get more patients? How do I market myself effectively? What do I put up on social media? What do I put on TikTok, etc. And we kind of peel that onion back and ask questions like, well, who are you? Like, who is your patient? Who are you trying to talk to? Because it's all very well throwing people in, like shoving people in the funnel and getting inquiries, but are those people coming back? Are they telling their friends and their family? Are they spending money with you because you've done a great job in your consultation process, your treatments were good, the post-care was great? And so I kind of wonder from your perspective, when you're doing work with a client, do you sort of go back to sort of before you worry about putting more people in the funnel, what's your internal marketing like? What's your patient journey like? Because otherwise it's just like having a hole in a boat.
I agree.
You just put people in there that's coming out the
Yeah.
bottom. What are we doing?
Yeah, and you waste all your money on the top end, and then there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see what you think about that.
So what we usually teach before the ecosystem, so before starting traffic, before spending time and money on traffic, is a branding strategy, which is the brand alchemy.
Mm.
And it starts with what we talked about first. It has a bunch of elements. The first one is why are you doing this? What's your brand purpose?
Mm.
And then it talks also about who is your audience exactly. And obviously we know this, that the more specific you can be about your audience, the more you know about them, the more specific. And it's so scary for generalists. Most people are generalists. We can help anyone. And the ones that really are brave enough to be more specific. So for example, my clinic specializes in elderly people. Elderly as in, I'm not even going to put a number on this now because I'm digging a hole here. Let's say my clinic focuses on people that want to age gracefully
Mhm.
or slowly. So that's a niche, amazing. And the more that you know about that and you have a more specific niche, easier your marketing. And so as part of the brand strategy, we talk about your purpose, your audiences, your brand personality, tone of voice, something that right now in the age of AI, which I'm a big fan of, you need to know, you need to understand, you need to have a really good identity, tone of voice, so that you can take this information, give it to AI, build your own agent that can talk exactly like you and you don't sound like everyone else. And so it has tone of voice, identity. We talk about your core messages. What are some of your core messages that you want to get out there to be known for? What do you want to be known for? And also, a big one is how can you differentiate? What can you do that is a little bit different to other people?
I guess the opposite problem, and we identified this in episode 1 with John and John in their state of medical aesthetics, was that many clinics are ignoring marketing completely.
Yeah.
It's sort of seen as a nice to do, but it's too much money, too difficult. I'll just sort of let things just happen and organically, hopefully get patients somehow. So the opposite problem is either, people marketing the wrong way or not doing it at all. So what do you say to those people who haven't even explored marketing yet?
I think they're missing out big time. And I see a lot of businesses that come to us and they say, yeah, my main strategy is word of mouth. It's not a strategy. It's a result of you having a great product
It's a hope.
or it's a hope. It's hope marketing. Exactly. And when they come and say that, I actually say, you know what? Because everyone we work with, we first have a chat and we make sure we can help them. Because if somebody's selling some crappy thing, it's not going to work. You have to have a good product or a good service. But when they come and they say, hey, Franziska, my main strategy is word of mouth. I get so many referrals. Like, okay, you got a good thing. You got a good service. So imagine if we put some effort behind promoting this now. You've already got the most important thing, which is a good product, a good service people love. Now, let's put some time or money or both behind this for more people to see. So people, as you say, Jake, who go, and we're not doing anything, we're just going to see what happens here, they're missing out. And if their reason why they're not doing anything is money, it's okay. There are things that you can do that are free.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was talking to someone here, a member of Fresh, and one of her best strategies right now is because a lot of these clinics they need to just do local area marketing, which is cheap and easy. And so one thing that she does is she posts into Facebook community groups. It's a free thing to do. Now, the problem though, now every listener is going to go, cool, I'm going to do that. I'm going to post into a Facebook community group and they're going to post the wrong thing. Because they're going to say, hey, we're amazing, come down and get the special. And obviously language is a big issue here. You can't use most words that are a description of the products, services that people do. So they go and write the wrong thing. What do you want to do instead is you want to come from a place of giving again. And even people love helping. So if you are a new small business in a new suburb and you go into a Facebook group and you say, and you're humble, vulnerable, you say, hey, I'm Franziska, I'm new in town, I just opened a new clinic and I'm not sure how to actually grow. I'm struggling a little bit. I would love to just prove myself and I'm looking for 5 women who want to come in and use one of our services and in return give me a testimonial, for example. That's the way. Then 5 women may come and get a discounted or a free service. And all the other women that didn't make it, hopefully some of them will go, hey, I'm going to support this girl because she's new. She seems hungry. She seems to really care about what she does. So it's about using also, I know I'm long-winded answer to your short question about the people that do nothing, is you can do stuff that is time, it costs you a little bit more time, but no money. It all comes back to the narrative again. What story are you telling? Whether this strategy you're using is successful or not.
In 2025, there are so many channels that you can use. You've got your website, obviously. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. There's probably others I've forgotten about. And it can be often difficult to know where this new business is coming from because usually there's multiple touch points with a brand before someone makes a decision to engage. So where do you kind of start, and then how do you measure the success of a particular campaign and know where to redeploy funds and effort?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the attribution of leads
Yeah.
is a little bit difficult. And often people will do a campaign on, let's say, Instagram, but then they see, oh, but the lead came through Google, for example. So they're like, oh, this didn't work. So it can definitely be a challenge to know exactly where it's coming from. Where I do say to people where to start is where they're passionate about. So me personally, I don't like TikTok at the moment. Maybe I'm a bit of a late bloomer too. I usually wait and see what happens. And so I'm not on TikTok because I don't want to post stuff every 5 seconds. If somebody says, hey, somebody told me, hey, I need to be on YouTube, but I hate being on camera. Don't go on YouTube for now. Post something else. Use a different channel that you enjoy. And again, of course, I have to put a boundary around that, because let's say if you are passionate about TikTok, but your audience are women aged 50 to 70, TikTok is not going to help you. So of course, know where your audience is and then use the channels that you're passionate about if you're doing the social media as the nurse. Now, how do you measure? So I always say just start with the basics and use Google Analytics. It's a free tool. You can see where the traffic comes from. You can use tracking links, obviously. When you use meta ads or any other paid ads, it's very easy to track exactly how much it's costing you per lead. But then again, sometimes those metrics are not quite accurate. But you can still see, hey, it's all kind of working. I'm paying $50 on Facebook for a lead. This lead usually spends about $1,000. I'm gonna just put a bit more money behind this campaign.
Yeah.
Simplest thing, just ask them when they come to your clinic,
Yeah.
how did you come across me?
Yes.
I always ask them, they might say Google. I'm like, cool, what did you actually write? Because I really want to know.
That-
And then, they might say, I don't know, Botox Sydney or whatever they write. But at least you kind of know what
I love that.
was or wasn't working. Most injectors, and this is just my observation, you might see it differently, they lean heavily into only social media. They're not doing anything else. So they're doing Instagram, and they're trying to drum up education and doing some memes, and they're trying to do a nice mix of all of that, but it's all on one channel. And they've kind of ignored Google and the back end of their website and Google My Business and so on. So can you just, I guess, talk to injectors about why that's not a great strategy and what other avenues that they could, use?
You definitely want to diversify, and I always explain marketing like opening doors. So imagine you have your business and marketing. What's the purpose of marketing? Is to attract people, for people to see your business. And I always say, hey, just look at marketing like you're opening doors. So you want to open doors. So whether it is Instagram, Facebook ads, YouTube, whatever, open as many doors as you can. Because as you say, if they only have one door open and that door closes because, let's say, Instagram Meta decides to shut you down, which in this industry happens a lot,
Yes.
then what happens? You have no people coming through the door. So you want to diversify as much as you possibly can so that you avoid these crazy up and downs that a lot of business owners have in terms of revenue. Now, some of the forgotten strategies for this industry that people don't do enough, especially for, again, small clinic in a smaller town, is local area marketing, such as letterbox drops. I know, so old school. It's like, what? Letterbox drops? They work if you have a good letterbox drop, if you have a good way to get out there, if it's not like everyone else does. But just you got to be a little bit creative. Ask ChatGPT to help you come up with some really cool stuff, and partnerships with other businesses in that area. So that can be anyone that has the same audience, and usually that's people like, people that you work with, people that have a little bit more disposable income, and that can be the florist, can be hairdressers, can be any other, I guess, beauty salons that don't do what you do, and you just build referral partners with them. And that's also, that takes time, but once you got these relationships and you nurture them, they can be a forever green strategy.
And just to add to your list, plastic surgeons and dentists.
Yeah.
So they're seeing the same people with disposable income, concerned with their face or body. And it's the same conversation that the plastic surgeon might deal with this, and then they'll say, we'll go and see so-and-so for your face. And, you can develop that sort of nice system. It's
But even fitness studios,
free as well, you don't
gyms,
have to pay
things
for
like
it.
that. Yeah,
It's almost like old school is new school.
absolutely.
Like getting back, because we're such,
Introverts now.
well, I'm just so reliant on the digital ecosystem. Like there's something that's charming and refreshing about actually making personal connections
Yeah.
with people, introducing yourself. Like if you're in a small community, is there opportunities for you to get involved in the local community, like local business groups, Chamber of Commerce's, the school where your kids go to.
Exactly.
I kind of think that's probably should be revisited, if you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, because I think we had COVID, people were lonely, isolated, nobody went anywhere. And then suddenly people, still loneliness, I think, is one of the biggest issues that people face. So now people want to have these connections, but they don't really always have somewhere to go.
Mhm.
So even partnering with these businesses that we just mentioned to have a community event where you have different speakers sharing different things, maybe people can try different things and get together. Even that old school strategy now is cool. Letterbox drops, if you think about it,
Yeah.
when I go to my letterbox, it's either
Bills.
it's either bills or some really crappy real estate flyer with some guy's face on it and a calendar maybe.
Yeah.
It's like, really, like, how old school crappy is it? Do I really want this guy's mug on my fridge? Unless he's really good looking, probably not. Most of them are not. So if you, as a clinic owner, you are a bit more clever about what you put into someone's letterbox, it will work. It will work if it doesn't look like just an advertisement. And that's what I always say. I say, make your marketing look like it's not marketing. Make it look like it's from me to you.
Mm.
What would you send a friend? Would you send a voucher? Would you send something in a colored envelope in your brand color? You wouldn't just make it look crappy.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that the kind of the human psyche of needing to conform, and there's this new concept that everyone's doing, and then you're swimming in the end of the pool where it's like you can't even move. Everyone's there. You're competing against all these people.
Yeah.
So for me, I think resisting that human urge, because that's biological programming, isn't it? We're biologically programmed to conform with the crowd, because that's how we survive. We're social creatures. We can't survive on our own in the jungle. We need a tribe or a community, right? So that's inherently in us. But if you can kind of fight that to a degree, to think, well, everyone's doing this, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're sort of in a much less competitive environment because you've resisted that urge to conform. What do you think about that?
I think you're spot on, and you can even take this question further. So within even one thing that you do. So yes, so everyone is doing this, and yes, I definitely think it should be on social media. Organic social media these days has pretty much zero impact. So you can post 20 times a week if you want to. It's not going to help you unless you put some money behind it too. But even within, let's say, if I do a letterbox drop, I might have a conversation with ChatGPT and I might say, hey, what is everyone doing when it comes to letterbox drops? And it will give me all these conventional ways. I'm like, cool. What can I do that is completely different? That people will go to and go like, oh, this is cool. clever, cheeky, this is whatever. It needs to obviously fit into your brand. If your brand is super conventional and slightly, less rebellious, then you do that, but you can still be very different. And I know I keep coming back to having conversations with ChatGPT, but I really do think it's something that I keep talking about anywhere I go, because I'm sure you come across still people that don't use even just ChatGPT. If you don't use anything else at the moment, I'm happy if you just have a play with ChatGPT, and anything you do, have a conversation and say, hey, I want to do this strategy. What do you think? It will help you make it better.
We had an interesting chat with Rick O'Neill. He's a digital marketer a year or two ago, and he said his one bit of advice with AI and ChatGPT, he said, ask it politely, because you never know when the AI is going to bite back. So be nice to ChatGPT when you're speaking to it. Say please, say thank you.
Yeah, I definitely.
Might sound silly, but I still do it. He scared me into it.
Yeah, or Grok. I find Grok good too. I sort of gravitate or sort of alternate between Grok and ChatGPT.
I don't know that.
That's the one on X.
Yeah.
So it's Elon's version, I guess. But I find them
You like
interesting.
it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask both just because I'm just that kind of weirdo. So
I use ChatGPT all the time, like business, but even last night, I have two daughters, and one almost 4, almost 2. I just came around the corner, the 4-year-old banged the little one on the head, and I got pretty annoyed, and I came in strong. I don't yell, but I'm like, you can't do this. And so I grabbed her, put her on the side. I said, he can't hit your sister. And then I put them to bed, and then I felt really bad. So I went on to ChatGPT and I said, hey, this happened. Was this the right parenting approach? I feel a bit bad about it. And he gave me the best answer. He said, hey, well done, empathy. Well done. You're doing the best. Here's a better approach.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. So, using ChatGPT for anything, I think as business owners, as humans, we just need to get started using it in our daily life.
yeah. Well, we're being asked to do more than we've ever done before. If you think back to your grandparents,
Yeah.
Farmers,
yeah.
I mean, you'd work 9 to 5. There was no emails. There was a written letter of communication. You'd put it in the post. It'd take a few days to get there. We didn't have mobile phones, so our nervous systems are just absolutely bombarded. And I see AI as a tool to allow us to become more efficient.
Efficient and better.
Yeah.
And it's like a mentor. You can use it as a coach to coach you through things, and even when we talk about businesses and growing them, to coach you through how to do it even better.
Yeah.
Or doubt, let's say I'm a clinic owner. I'm like, I just listened to this podcast and I kind of want to post into a Facebook group, but I'm a bit scared because what are people going to think? Post it in the chat, please say, hey, I'm scared. I want to do this, but I don't know. It will coach you through it. It will go, hey, Franziska, you got this. Don't worry. Here are some strategies to help you overcome it.
Yeah.
Just use it as a coach even, or a grok, or the channels.
I'm using it a lot at the moment for my musical development. So like when I'm hitting roadblocks and having, mental issues with certain things, I find it really useful to sort of walk me through it and give me statistics and those kinds of things. So it's limited by your creativity. Something I wanted to touch on was people that post for the sake of posting. People will often think, well, I need to post every day. I need to post every week. And they end up just putting up crap that's just wasting everyone's time, including their own, and that reduces their engagement. Like, what do you think about that? And how often do you need to post? And, finding your voice and what it is about your messaging that'll make it worthwhile. Because you're asking people to give up their time, right? Which is the most valuable commodity.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of advise people to go through that mental process and find that sweet spot?
Yeah, and I have definitely even, found for our business, Basic Bananas, I have a team who does the social media, and I've definitely looked at it and I'm like, this is just stuff that they post because they have to, and it's not good enough. And so I would say, hey guys, let's post stuff when it's good. And if you're just posting something for the sake of it because it's Monday, maybe let's just not post it. And I think that's the flip side of AI. Now everyone can go onto AI and say, give me 10 posts for Instagram, and you get it in 30 seconds, and you have 10 posts, and they're probably not that good. And then you post them away because you have to. I really think it's damaging for your brand to just post stuff for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So I would say, don't worry about the frequency too much. And I always advise post good stuff over frequent stuff. Because again, especially for newer businesses, but even the ones that have 100,000 followers, not many people see your content unless you put money behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a guy yesterday, and he had this whole marketing plan, one of our members. And he said, here's my plan. I need to post 5 times a week on all these channels. I need to post twice on LinkedIn. I need to do SEO, 1 article a week. I said, and he's like, I'm so overwhelmed. I said, just stop. I said, post once a week on Instagram and launch one really good ad campaign that he can launch on Instagram and Facebook. And that's it. There are people like Gary Vaynerchuk that obviously have made lots of money and that are huge by posting 30 times a day. But that's all he does is posting content 30 times a day, all day long. That's his space. And he advises people too. And I think that's where we need to sometimes take some advice with a grain of salt. Because he will tell people, he'll say, you need to post 30 times a day. And suddenly I go as a clinical, I was like, I don't have time. I need to do other things. I need to service my client. And so I don't think it's the best advice to do that. I think it's better to post when you have something from the heart to say. And then if you can see that the post goes off, people engage with it, put money behind it so that then your audience can see it. And we know when we look at different campaign tags, if you want to go a little bit more granular, maybe a bit more boring for some listeners, we definitely want to have a campaign that is a bit more of an awareness campaign. So you're out there, you're sharing that, hey, I'm here, I got some good stuff, targeting people more broadly. And then you also want to have, so that's just awareness. Not too much money. I wouldn't spend too much money on that. Maybe less, I don't know, it depends on your clinic, but let's say $5 a day if you're in a small area. And you want to have a campaign that is more direct response, where you ask them now to take action. Where you say, hey, you may have seen we're here in town. We'd love for you to swing by. So you have more the awareness campaign where you're giving good stuff, you're saying that you're here, and then you have a campaign that is a bit more direct response, hey, now take action. And I think that's a better strategy.
You mentioned put money behind it. Do you mean, for example, in Instagram, there's an option for boost post? Is that essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, I think for anyone who is getting started with meta ads, so meta ads means Facebook, Instagram, the boosting the post is great. I definitely think it would be good to maybe to go one step further and just use the meta ads platform. It's actually really easy to use. I'm not a very technical person and I can use it. It comes back to having a good strategy again. So I would definitely recommend, once you've mastered a little bit the boosting the post, it's just one click, go into the meta ads platform and set up a campaign. It will take you 10 minutes.
And what sort of spend for a post is typical?
For a boost, I wouldn't spend more than $20.
Okay. And you can define parameters like I only want it to reach
Yeah.
Sydney, this age group, females, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely want to choose the audience, and that's that's something you do.
And then I guess, the concept of like A/B testing,
Yeah, definitely.
right? So when you are posting and it was successful, do you know why? As opposed to initiatives that you might run that are less successful. So I guess you kind of start to double down on the things that are working and learning, okay, well, this post didn't do well. Okay, this one did. Why did it do well? Okay, well, these are probably the elements that worked.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of testing. The cool thing about meta ads and that platform, and again, it's not as hard as it may seem to some people. The cool thing is that you can test anything in there. So you can just launch one campaign and have 3 different ads. And the only thing you change is maybe the image. I had one of my friends, he just wrote a book and he came to me, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about the title. Should it be this or this? I said, I don't know, but let's ask people. So what he's doing now is, I said, let's just launch a campaign, put $100 behind it on Meta, have a campaign and have exactly the same ad, except all you change is the title of the book. Just have 2 titles or 3 titles and see which one of these ads gets more clicks.
Yeah.
Which one gets more? And that's how I test when I write a new book. I go and ask people by paying a little bit of money to see, hey, which one, even for book covers, I might have 3 book covers. I like this one, but I'm just one person. So let's see what people really like by just having a campaign running for $50, let's say.
I know you're big on communication and mindset, and that's sort of how you train some of the businesses. So how do clinic owners translate their own vision and, I guess, brand identity to their staff? That's a hard one. And sometimes we, even as a podcast, sometimes, just me and David, we're trying to be on the same page, and sometimes we have different personalities. It's understandable. So how does a clinic teach that culture?
Yeah, it's so
Should we
important.
a clinic?
Especially in clinics, I think culture is so important because as a customer, as a client, you come in and you can feel it. The thing that I am a big fan of, and we can make one an example available to your listeners or to your Patreon members, is we have what we call a culture book, and the culture book outlines exactly all that. It outlines how we show up. So it starts with the vision. It starts with our brand strategy, the vision, who we are, what we stand for. Then we have in there how we behave, how we don't behave. So how we behave could be, we don't gossip, we're friendly, we don't swear in front of people, or we do swear. How we, for us at Basic Bananas, we also say you can wear whatever you want at work. You can wear your fairy wings if you want to. You can bring your dog if you want to, but in the clinic maybe not. And how we don't behave, and it outlines all that. Now, people always, and those are sort of the company principles. So we have the company principles that are how you are operating internally and externally. So that could be you stand for playfulness, or you stand for integrity, or whatever. And then you have your insider principles, how you as a team want to show up. And I always say to business owners, you kind of want to run the top bit, the vision and your company values, principles, like a dictatorship. You don't need to involve your team to come up with, you can if you're struggling, you don't need to. You can come up with the vision and your guiding principles. However, when it comes to then the team culture, how we as a team want to show up, what we like here, what we don't like here, you can involve them. And you can do a session with them. And you just document it. You put it into a few pages and you revisit it. We have a weekly leadership meeting with the team, and we always start with the vision. Because I felt like after 15, 16 years, the last sort of after COVID, it got a little bit difficult because we used to run everything face to face, and we had US operation, Canada, Switzerland, Sweden, New Zealand, and it all fell flat. And I felt like everything just got a bit dull. So I thought, you know what, I need to come back to vision, not just for me, but for everyone. So we now start every team meeting with the vision. We're like, hey, remember, the vision is this.
Yeah.
And we finish every team meeting with one of our values. Like, hey, which value this week should we focus on? We have 5. And I think it's a good way to bring that into the culture. It's so easy to do.
What do you think about the concept of like focus groups? So I'll unpack that a little bit. So when I was running my clinics, we would be able to identify who are our top 20 most loyal patients, who are the ones that probably, if we had to draw or describe who our perfect patient would be, we could fit those people into that category. And those people almost became like part of our extended team. They were the people that we'd ask about new services that we were bringing. If we're having a marketing campaign, if we're trying new treatment, that might be treatment models. And that helped us determine which way we were going to move forward to double down on things that were working, how a certain advertising campaign would resonate with them, because those were actually real people that had come to the business. They were like our number one fans. And that concept worked well for us. I was curious, like, what do you think about that? Have you sort of explored that type of concept before, like using, it's kind of like an old school kind of thought process, really.
Yeah.
Have you sort of dabbled in that kind of stuff before? And what do you think?
So would you, we used to do it in advertising.
Yeah.
I'm very opinionated about
Yeah.
focus, but I want to know from you, would you bring them in and then have a chat?
Yeah.
Setting, or
sometimes we did it one-on-one. Like sometimes we'd go like, we'd go out to dinner, or I'd pay them. It would just be like an investment in getting these people out there together and having discussions around various things in the business, like, who's going well in the team, like who are the favorite people that you like seeing in my business? Yeah. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? So it was kind of a bit of one-on-one, and then there was also the occasional where we'd get together as a group.
I think the way that you are describing focus groups is incredible, because it's almost like you have your board of advisors,
Yeah.
which are your best
Yeah.
clients. Generally, focus groups, the way that they do it in advertising, that
Yeah.
they used to do it, I think they're useless.
Yeah.
Completely useless, because you go into a room with all these people that usually are not your
Yeah.
best clients, and they hypothetically talk about something that is not even there yet. And I think it's completely useless. in that sense.
Mm.
The way that you run them
Yeah.
is more of a board of advisors, and you make them feel special. You're like part of our VIP club.
Yeah.
I want to know your opinion. I think the way that you run them, amazing.
Yeah.
Generally, focus groups, useless.
Well, they almost became like more loyal. They actually cared more. They referred more people.
Yeah. And
It was
yeah.
it was really interesting, and I kind of stumbled across. I don't know. I
Like
heard about it in another industry. Like that was your advice at the beginning. Like take
Yeah.
cues and concepts that come from
other industries.
yeah, because our industry is really young. We don't know what we're doing yet. We're still figuring it out. But like compared to other industries like food or fashion retail or it's been around for decades and
Yeah.
decades. We're babies still.
Yeah. The thing I like about that concept that you're explaining and that you have used is the whole, it's like a loyalty
Mm,
program thing where you make people feel special. And I think any clinic can implement
mm,
very cheaply a VIP sort of offering.
yeah,
And maybe once you have come more than 10 times, you graduate into our VIP club and we have dinner together
yeah,
once a quarter
hmm
or once every 6
yeah,
months. And that's when you then also ask them for your opinion. I think it's brilliant.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not so crazy. Yeah.
Lock it in.
I guess last two questions. Looking ahead, what are any emerging new trends in marketing or branding? We sort of touched on AI, but for example, I've heard that Google is obviously going to immerse AI into its own search engine.
Mm.
So maybe will people have to adapt their websites to talk to Google better and so on. So what's on the horizon for clinics to think about?
I think that the most important thing to think about when it comes to the future is using these tools. I don't quite know exactly how it's going to play out even with SEO and are these articles are the AI generated articles actually going to rank or are they not going to rank? I think we're all sort of making up all these different assumptions. And I think rather than being hypothetical about that and trying to outsmart these tools,
The stuff
is use those tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, just use them and get really good at using AI because I think that's the only thing we can be certain of.
So I guess to kind of just round off the conversation and sort of bring this back to the Fresh Clinic model and the work that you've done with them, I understand you've done like a lot of webinars and you've got some tailored courses. One in particular is called the Fresh Clever Bunch. Can you tell us more about this partnership and where people can find out more about your work?
We have launched a really cool program with Fresh Clinics. It's called the Fresh Clever Bunch. And it's really cool that Fresh Clinics is supporting their members in that way. So what they obviously recognized is that nurses struggle with marketing. So they came and they said, hey, can we create a custom program for our nurses that we can subsidize? Because normally we have the Clever Bunch, which we run. Anyone can come to Basic Bananas, apply. We talk to them. If we can help them, they can come into the Clever Bunch. It starts at 10K Australian dollars a year. And Fresh said, hey, we're going to subsidize this. So right now we have an intake and they're paying a fraction of that price because of Fresh. And they're going through a 12-week program where they will build their marketing ecosystem. So the problem with most education is that we can throw all this content at people, but unless they implement, nothing happens, of course. So how we've built the Fresh Clever Bunch is that every week, myself, I go online for an hour. We call it the advisory board, where the members come together and I help them implement. And I look at what they've done that week. And then we adjust it, we see, and we learn something new next week. We come back together and we implement basically step by step, holding their hand.
Well, that's a great conversation. It's really sort of hopefully opened our listeners' minds to what they should or could be doing. Of course, reach out to Fresh Clinics and to Franziska for, all of your amazing sort of help, and maybe you could join that sort of mentoring program. I guess just to end this podcast, we've got a special offer with Fresh Clinics. They have kindly given away a $500 credit that you can put towards either skincare or training for your clinic. So whether you're listening in America, Australia, this might slightly differ on what's available, but check out the link in our podcast description below. David, do you want to tell everyone about what's going to be dropped into our Patreon?
Yeah, it's been a Patreon extravaganza, this collaboration with Fresh at the moment. So as Francesca was talking about, her Clever Bunch education videos are obviously available through the Fresh Pathway, but we'll also be offering 2 of your webinars on our Patreon as well. So that will be a nice little free introduction for the people that are already part of our community to get exposed to you and what it is you do, and if they want to learn more about what we spoke about here today.
Yeah. And then finally, you're going to be at the Fresh Life, which is Fresh's conference at the end of the year.
We'll be there too.
We will be there too, yes. So if you want to say hi to us, come as well. So that's September the 2nd to the September the 4th. It's in Brisbane. It's an amazing event. So check it out. All the details are down below. But thank you again for your time.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for flying down to see us. We're honored.
You're so welcome, and thank you both for all the work that you put into this, because I know how much goes into creating a show like this, and you do it, as we talked about in the beginning, to close the loop. You do it with passion and with purpose. So really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.